So I'm going to start out this by saying I'm not judging, all right? This is not criticism. I'm just understanding and curious. So I don't want any of my Korean audience or anyone who's had plastic surgery to get mad at me because I'm not saying it's bad or good. I'm just doing research. And here's why I decided to make this video. So a lot of you know I've been doing jiu-jitsu. The place where I do jiu-jitsu is right next to Koreatown. Koreatown is probably the biggest collection of Koreans outside of Korea in America. After I do jiu-jitsu, you get this amazing euphoria in your whole body. It's called the endorphins, right? The endorphins, they relax your body. You're feeling good. And so for the rest of the night, I have a few hours. I don't want to do shit. I don't want to think. I don't want to YouTube. I don't want to talk to anyone. I kind of just walk around Koreatown, or I sit somewhere and I eat, or I get some dessert and I just sit there. This has been going on for about 3 months now. And I noticed so many, I can't emphasize the so many part. I noticed so many cute Korean girls. The first few times I was hanging out in Koreatown, I was like, damn, man, Korean girls, they're nice. What's going on? What are they feeding them? And then as I started observing more, I noticed a trend. I noticed there were basically 4 types of Korean girl faces, all attractive, but there were only literally 4 faces. There's a cutesy Korean girl face. There's a hot Korean girl face. There's like a cutesy hot Korean girl face, and there's a more mature but pretty type of Korean girl face. Those are the only 4 types of Korean girl faces I ever saw. The heights were different, maybe the makeup were different, the hair might be different colored, etc. Maybe you could tell little personality differences, but physically, the face, there's only 4 types of Korean girl face. So I started thinking, I'm like, wasn't Korea like the big plastic surgery capital of the world? That's what prompted me to go down this rabbit hole and look at plastic surgery in Korea. So these are some of the crazy things I've been finding out about plastic surgery in Korea. So let's go. So the first thing I learned about Koreans and plastic surgery is you can look online for various sources. I looked at Gallup. Gallup tends to be a pretty reliable source because they try to do a representative sample. And I've looked at other sources too, but anywhere from 1 in 3 to 1 in 5. So basically about 33% to 20%, depending on your source, of Korean women, all Korean women have done plastic surgery. That is a lot. That is like if I'm in Koreatown, I throw a ball, it's probably gonna land on someone who's had plastic surgery. It's not just the women either. The men have just like 15%, depending on the source, 10 to 15% of men have had plastic surgery. That chair I was sitting on was pissing me off, so I'm kneeling now. So the second really surprising fact I learned is that at least 2 presidents of Korea have had plastic surgery. One president, a president in the 80s, apparently he had plastic surgery, the double eyelid surgery, one of probably the most popular plastic surgery done in Asia. And then there was the president that got impeached, the lady, and apparently they looked through her plastic surgery records and found out she did plastic surgery on the state budget without ever reporting it. And then another really interesting thing, and this shows how our society and technology and biomedical services have evolved. But first of all, Korea has universal health care, which is crazy. I did not know that. But second of all, the double eyelid surgery only takes about 15 minutes, man. 15 minutes. You see, if you look at my eyes, I have a weird sort of fold in my eye where it's like really overly folded. So I don't have traditional Asian eyes and I don't have double eyelids. It's like a family characteristic. My mom's side of the family, a lot of them have this. It's like extra folded. It's like 3-fold. It's really weird. When I was younger, sometimes my eyelashes would not grow right because of all these folds. And especially when I wear contacts, because now there's an extra thing on my eyes, these get really folded. And I actually thought about maybe one day I would do plastic surgery just so the eyelashes would stop growing in, and also it would be easier for me to wear contacts because then it wouldn't feel like this part was big. So the fact that it would only take 15 minutes, I'll be honest, it got me interested. I'm like, only 15 minutes, and if it only costs a few $1,000, which makes me then wonder, for example, if you compare plastic surgery in America versus plastic surgery in Korea, who does it better? And I get this feeling they probably do it better in Korea because so many procedures, like a factory where you get so good at it. As I'm reading into all of this, I realized that I think in Korean culture, they're just more honest about admitting to what gives people advantages. So I saw so many interviews where they're like, yeah, you know, people are attracted to looks. Looks get you far. So if you can do something to get you hired at a job easily or whatever, why not? And that's so in contrast to American society where it's like, oh yeah, you could look hideous, but we're still going to say you're beautiful in your own way. It's so polar extreme to what we have here in the West. And this actually goes to my next kind of thought on this, which is most Asian cultures, whether due to Confucianism or whatever, they're just a little bit more collective. They think about the whole more. They think about hierarchy and all this stuff. There is a sense, and this is something maybe you don't see in the West as much. I wouldn't even call it peer pressure. It's something deeper. But let's say everyone around you is doing something to improve their appearance. You kind of want to do it too, because that's what everyone's doing. It's not even peer pressure. But in a way, it is peer pressure because, let's say all your friends are doing it and then they start looking really good in 5 years and you don't do it, then it's like, fuck, oh no, oh, I'm left out. So actually that isn't peer pressure. What is that? That's more... You see this a lot in Chinese culture too, but I think a lot of the East Asian cultures, they really believe in, if you put work into it, you can do something that maybe even you weren't good at first. Capitalistic cultures, they're all about whatever your comparative advantage is, you specialize in that. You get so good at that because you already have an advantage and then you use that. But a lot of Asian cultures, sometimes in economics, it's called dynamic comparative advantage. Basically, you're not naturally good at it, but you work so hard that you become good at it. That's why so many Asian parents force their kids to play a violin or piano. Maybe their kids were better at singing, or maybe their kids were better at flute, or maybe their kids didn't want to play an instrument, their kids were better at football or something. No, you have to play a violin, or you have to be a doctor, because it's all that mentality. As long as you work hard, you can do it. That kind of ideology seems to have gone into appearances too in Korea, and I see it in China too. It's like if you put enough work, you put enough effort, you can look beautiful, or you can look like someone even. So if you put enough effort, you can look like this celebrity, you can look like that celebrity. So I started reading about the roots to all of this. Why? It appears it has a lot to do with the Korean War. So after the Korean War, because it happened on the Korean Peninsula, a lot of Koreans, battle scars and everything. So that's how plastic surgery basically got started. After the Korean War, all these American GIs stayed behind to help stabilize Korea. Certain medical people in the military said, you know what, let's help you guys repair all these damages to your bodies and faces, and it just took off from there. So it has its roots in the Korean War, which is so interesting. It gets me wondering about the double eyelids. Why are double eyelids so attractive in Asian standards? Because growing up, that's what I was taught. It seems like a lot of people attribute that to the West, especially America colonizing Korea, being there. What I heard growing up as a kid from my parents was always, if you don't have double eyelids, you kind of look droopy, or you kind of look sleepy. You look unmotivated. Maybe that's a good way to describe the lack of double eyelids. But the articles I was reading seem to have really wanted to emphasize more the Western influence. It's like, oh yeah, it's all about how the West standard of beauty and, this Eurasianness, how it's affected the Korean standards of beauty, and the fact that Korea was such an impoverished nation after World War II, and then after Korean War, and then it built itself up by emulating Western ideals. And so it's explaining maybe through functional or political science reasons. And I read this really interesting article that was trying to say that it has to do with kind of like an anti-Japan sentiment too, because Japan colonized and raped Korea for like 45 years until the end of World War II. So a lot of Koreans have this intense hatred of Japan, and it's like they want to get as far away from a Japanese ideal of look as possible. We have like a heat wave right now in LA. It's really hot, so I'm sweating like crazy. The reason I'm mentioning all this was because growing up to me, I never knew that there could have been potentially a Western influence to the East's perception of beauty. I always just took it as, okay, this is what it is. If it is true that the West's standard of beauty has really influenced Korea, how much has it influenced China too? Like, for example, the preference for big eyes and stuff like that. Is that something that was because China started interacting with, let's say, Turkic people and maybe Russians more, and then later the United States and Britain, etc.? Is the beauty preference something that came about even before China really started interacting with the West? Because I kind of don't buy that it was all the West's influence for this preference for big eyes. Granted, if you look at paintings of beautiful women in China, probably even Korea, Japan, in the ancient days, you probably do see it's smaller eyes. So the preference for big eyes, I don't think was always present in Asia, especially East Asia. So that's something I want to explore more. Maybe we could dedicate another video to this topic. And then the last really surprising thing I found out was there's actually TV shows about the plastic surgery experience, and look at how they transformed. One is about women who say they cannot get on with life. They are disabled or disadvantaged because of their looks. And then they get plastic surgery and it shows what they look like afterwards. Another show is maybe people who are a little older. They want to get back to their youth. So they get plastic surgery to look younger. Plastic surgery is so normal in Korean society. There are TV shows about it, and apparently on the subways, just there's ads all the time about plastic surgery. The unexpected consequence of me reading all this stuff and looking down this rabbit hole is that now when I see all those Korean women, one, I understand why there's like only 4 templates for faces, but 2, I'm going to be looking for plastic surgery. So I was reading up on popular plastic surgery procedures. One is, of course, the double eyelid surgery. Another is a rhinoplasty. For some reason, I guess Koreans have a preference for a little bit of a nose bridge too, even though I think nose bridges and Asian faces just don't work together. Look at the celebrity Dilraba. She's a very famous Chinese person, and she's got Turkic blood in her, so she looks almost Chinese but slightly Arab, and she has a big nose bridge, and I just don't think it works. Apparently nose bridges are really popular, so rhinoplasties, especially putting in the nose bridge, is something that's really popular in Korea. And then the chin, they like the more anime type of sharp chin, so a lot of those women will actually, like, I believe it takes a saw and you'll saw some of your chins. And then, of course, doing the skin, right, smoothing out the skin, making the skin more white. What I'm going to do now is, instead of being like, why is there only 4 templates, I'm going to be like, okay, well, she's got plastic surgery, and I'm going to start looking at the face. I'll be like, okay, where? But I'll be honest, man, I don't know what you guys think about this, but think about it from an economist point of view. Let's say it takes $4,000. You objectively make yourself look better, and it has no long-term side effects, and that $4,000 you spent, and let's say $2,000 more bucks traveling to Korea to get it, will pay off in 6 months because you'll land a better job, or let's say you're a freelancer, you'll land a lot of small jobs because you look better and people will like you better. Isn't it worth it? You see, once you start digging down the rabbit hole, you start understanding why. If objectively, and it seems like in Korea they're so honest about sexual marketplace value, they do realize that looks are so important. So if it is true that putting a little work into your looks helps you succeed more in life, if you're really motivated and you really want to try to get somewhere, isn't it worth it? But you see, this is the rabbit hole, right? If you start thinking like that, then every imperfection you might try to change. Maybe you'll try to smooth out all your skin's wrinkles and your acne, and then let's say you have little things on your, I have this nail fight with my dad, that this nail got fucked, so maybe I'll do that. And then it's like, before you know it, you've transformed. It's like, what the fuck? Where was the old person? Article I linked by the New Yorker, it interviewed this girl who she didn't want plastic surgery, but her dad told her she needed it, and she got it because she obeyed her dad. And at first she was not happy, but then afterwards she noticed that people treat her better. And she's like, oh shit. And then she started being more proud of herself and how she looks, and she realized, oh shit, that's good. When I was in San Francisco once, there was this random guy, I don't know why. He was having a bad day, so he came up to, I was with 3 or 4 people with glasses, and he was like, dude, you guys should get LASIK, man. It'll help you guys so much. He's a gay guy, right? Maybe that was his way of hitting on us. He's like, dude, I had LASIK, and it helped me a lot. And we're just like, dude, fuck off. Who cares about your LASIK? But maybe there is something to be said. And in most collectivist countries, they understand that it's not just about your own self-perception. You could think you're awesome. You could think you're the bomb. But if everyone else thinks you're a fucking idiot, you're a fucking idiot. Especially when it comes to beauty and sexual marketplace value. Because if you think you're the bomb, but nobody else thinks you're good looking or fertile or whatever, then potentially you got to put some work into it. So there's just some thoughts. Again, I was just curious. And I went down this rabbit hole looking up all these figures and looking up all these stories, and people can really change up their faces, which makes you want to be careful now if you date or go out with a Korean girl, like, What did you look like before you were 18? Okay, guys, I'm done. This was fun. It's so hot today. LA's been a heat wave, so if I sound pretty random, it's because I am. You don't want to do shit when it's this hot. But I will always go to jiu-jitsu, so I'm still coming to jiu-jitsu as long as my elbow heals by Tuesday. Maybe I should go to Koreatown, interview some Korean women about plastic surgery. Wouldn't that be cool, guys? Let me know, poll section right now. Would you want to see interviews with Korean women about plastic surgery? Get Jerry, the guy who would get people to talk about anything, to talk to Korean women about plastic surgery. Or if you're not Korean, if you're just someone who's interested in plastic surgery or someone who's had plastic surgery, you want to talk to me about it, message me on Discord or something. Maybe we do an interview. Talk about plastic surgery. Maybe we'll do a special episode. We'll look at the plastic surgery bad cases. The cases where stuff got messed up. That would be pretty epic too. I might get demonetized for that though, so maybe I'll think twice. Anyways, talk to you guys soon. Another video to come tomorrow. Potentially. Bye-bye.